In what appears to be a critical step towards bringing a possible end to the Russia-Ukraine war, US President Donald Trump has announced that he is arranging a two-way peace meeting between his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, which will be followed by a trilateral meeting involving Zelensky, Putin and Trump as well. Trump made this announcement in a Truth Social post after holding talks with Zelensky and a host of European leaders in the White House. In the post, Trump said that he dialed Putin for holding direct talks with Zelensky. US President said that the two-way meeting will be followed by a trilateral summit whose location is yet to be decided, and Trump interrupted the meeting with European leaders to make a call to Putin.
There has been an interruption. During this time, the American president spoke on the phone with the Russian president and agreed that there will be a meeting between the Russian president and the Ukrainian president within the next 2 weeks. This meeting is to take place at a location that still needs to be arranged. President Trump has agreed to then invite for a trilateral meeting again, so that the negotiations can now truly begin.
President Donald Trump pitched for peace at the White House meeting, a peace agreement that is, and he said that a ceasefire is not necessary to end the war. And this echoes his earlier comments that brought his position more in line with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who he met last week in Alaska.
I don't think you need a ceasefire. You know, if you look at the 6 deals that I settled this year, they were all at war. I didn't do any ceasefires. And I know that it might be good to have, but I can also understand strategically why, well, you know, one country or the other wouldn't want it. You have a ceasefire and they rebuild and rebuild and rebuild, and, you know, maybe they don't want that. But we can work a deal where we're working on a peace deal while they're fighting. They have to fight.
In response, Kremlin said that Putin and Trump discussed the idea of exploring the possibility of direct talks at a higher level during their 40-minute phone call. Putin and Trump, they both agreed to continue close contact with each other on the Ukrainian crisis and other pressing issues. Zelensky, on the other hand, says that he is ready for any format to meet with Putin. However, there shouldn't be any conditions for the talks. Ukrainian president said that territorial issues will be decided during the direct talks. Zelensky hailed talks with Trump as good and normal and said that the details of security guarantees will be worked out within 10 days.
No, we don't have any date. We don't have any date. We just confirmed after this productive meeting with President and then with all our colleagues, with partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of format, but on the level of leaders.
A host of European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen, NATO Chief Mark Rutte, among others, they called for a ceasefire before a trilateral meeting. While Merz said that Ukraine should not be forced into territorial concessions, Macron made it clear that White House talks did not discuss Ukraine's territorial concessions.
The third aspect I want to address regarding Ukraine, which has not been discussed again today, is that no territorial concessions should be imposed. The Russian demand that Kyiv give up the free parts of Donbass corresponds, to put it bluntly, to a proposal for the United States to have to give up Florida. A sovereign state cannot simply make such a decision lightly. This is a decision that Ukraine must make itself in the course of negotiations.
But if at the end this process is met by refusal, we are also ready to say that we need to increase sanctions and, in any case, adopt a stance that puts more pressure on the Russian side to return to the negotiation table. This is essentially what was decided today.
After US President Donald Trump held a meeting with Zelensky, including other European leaders in the White House, Trump had a telephonic conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Putin says that he is willing to meet a Ukrainian president. After the meeting, we had spoken to some of our analysts on the broadcast right here at WION World as One. Listen in to what these experts said.
Trump actually most recently has claimed that he's been strengthening it. Certainly, I am of the opinion that the increased military spending by European countries is long overdue and importance for boosting that alliance and dealing with the threat that Russia proposes. And Trump has talked down his previous doubts that he's cast over NATO. Now, for Ukraine and the security relationship that comes out of any potential talks here, that could really boost that alliance. That is certainly one possibility, but it is also possible that if Trump tries to force a deal and says that he won't continue to support Ukraine and the wider West unless they agree to Putin's terms, then that would be the weakest point that the Western and the NATO alliance has been at since the end of the Cold War and potentially be fatal.
Trump put the fear into some of the European presidents and prime ministers, i.e. that he had been threatening to perhaps leave NATO or not give the right amount of money or something along those lines. And the Europeans were really concerned that the Russian aggression would extend to them, that NATO would be attacked. And in the last year, the Europeans have really coughed up and they've paid a huge amount of money. They've increased their defense budgets. They're also giving arms to Ukraine and they're buying them from Donald Trump at this point. So President Trump is very pleased with how things are going. And that's the reason why he's now giving these security guarantees to Zelensky.
There's a possibility, very strong one, that President Zelensky is going to have to give up some land. The question is where and how much. I think most analysts are sure that Crimea is lost forever. The question is whether they'll have to give up the entirety of the Donetsk region in the east, including bits where many Ukrainian lives were lost fighting over sometimes very small patches of land in almost World War I-like circumstances. So where both armies would fight for weeks over just meters and kilometers of territory. So that would be very painful